Scottsboro Boys were 9 black teenagers traveling on a train through Alabama in search of work during the Great Depression. But on March 25th, 1931, a fight broke out between black and white passengers on the train. And the boys were falsely accused by 2 white women, Ruby Bates and Victoria Price, of rape, a crime punishable by death in the Jim Crow South. Within days, the boys were arrested in Scottsboro, Alabama, and quickly put on trial. Despite the lack of evidence and contradictory testimony of the accusers, the local jury convicted all 9 of the boys. 8 were sentenced to death. The youngest, Roy Wright, only 13 years old, was spared but faced life in prison. The trial lasted just a few days, and the boys were denied a fair defense. The case sparked national outrage. Civil rights groups, seeing the trial as a blatant example of racial injustice, rallied to the boys' defense. The Communist Party's International Labor Defense took up the case, fighting for their appeals and ensuring that Scottsboro Boys received national attention. The Scottsboro Boys became a symbol of the deep-seated racism that permeated the Southern legal system. Their case exposed how quickly black men could be accused, convicted, and sentenced to die with little regard for evidence or justice. But it also became the turning point as the fight for their freedom began to shift national views on race and civil rights. In 1932, the U.S. Supreme Court intervened, ruling in Powell v. Alabama that the Scottsboro Boys had been denied the right to adequate legal representation. This landmark decision required states to provide legal counsel in capital cases, setting an important legal precedent. But the legal battles continued for years. The Scottsboro Boys were retried multiple times, facing the same prejudice in courts. Yet, something remarkable happened. Ruby Bates, one of the 2 accusers, recanted her testimony in 1933, admitting that no rape had occurred. Despite this, the boys remained entangled in the legal system, with some spending over a decade in prison. The boys' eventual fates were mixed. Some were released after years of imprisonment, while others faced continued trials and convictions. Haywood Patterson, for example, was sentenced to 75 years in prison and eventually escaped. Clarence Norris, the last known survivor, was paroled in 1946, only to spend the rest of his life fighting to clear his name. In 1976, Norris received a full pardon from the state of Alabama. Though the Scottsboro Boys never received true justice in their lifetime, their case has changed America. It highlighted the systematic racism embedded in the legal system and sparked movements for fair trials and civil rights. The story of the Scottsboro Boys remains a powerful reminder of the dangers of prejudice, and their legacy continues to influence the fight for racial equality today.